I really enjoyed that private sector and public sector and investors and locators and even everyday people from around the Philippines are so excited right now about build, 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 about what this means not only for the country, but, you know, I've been doing master planning around the world for a long time, mostly focused on Asia and the Middle East for the past 20 years. And a lot of this excitement around infrastructure is not just here. It's you know, we've got a $1 trillion gap in connectivity infrastructure all across Asia, based on some studies that we've been doing for AIIB. You know, China's got its big Belt and Road project, and we've got build, 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 and we've got all sorts of people competing now to invest in infrastructure, because we all know infrastructure creates jobs and economic opportunity. So New Clark City is one of the pieces of this, and I'm going to tell you a lot about New Clark City now, kind of diving into one of these focus points that we've just heard about. And it is not a story just about Central Luzon. It is a story about the nation. It is, you know, let's zoom out a little bit, that it's a regional economic aspiration that folks from all over, investors, locators, we've got people who are moving out of China because labor is getting expensive, because the talent is actually not that tuned to global language and global operations and culture. This is a chance, and you know, we've been very fortunate at AECOM. We are one of the leading engineering and design and build and finance and operating companies in the world. We've been working with BCDA a lot, and BCDA has had great success in converting, you know, military assets into new commercial development, and not just property development, but infrastructure, as we've heard about. And especially here. This is a story of revival. This is a phoenix, right? Rising literally from the lahar, from the ashes. And so when we look at master planning, when we look at places like Global Gateway, places like Clark Freeport Zone, all these pieces coming together, it takes a village, people say, right? And it's a village or an ecosystem of many things working together to build a nation. And yeah, I came up here this morning very early so that I could try to miss the traffic. I still hit plenty. And of course, because Metro Manila has been enjoying such growth. I mean, this is a standout in Asia. It's the leading, consistently growing economy in Southeast Asia, right? 10 years of growth, and yet all that GDP is concentrated in one place, in Metro Manila. So we know that BPOs are contributing about 8-9%, foreign remittances about 8-9%, but we're losing a whole 7-8% from congestion alone. That's what JICA says, right? And that's now. By 2030, they say we're going to double that loss per day. So all these gains, BPOs, all these gains from remittances, lost because we can't get around. For us, when we talk about resilience, this is a balance then. We have chronic stresses like congestion, and we have acute shocks like the earthquakes. And we talk about that all the time. We're in it. The Philippines is a perfect storm of sorts, of opportunity to solve these issues. And by creating room here in Clark, room for Metro Manila to breathe and grow, we create competitiveness. And what kind of competitiveness? We're talking about the whole region. We're not saying Clark versus Metro Manila versus Cebu versus Davao versus Eric. All together, this is a $300 billion economy with competitors, erstwhile collaborators, to look at ASEAN and Southeast Asia as the emerging and best positioned economy in the whole world to tackle the future. Because we've got the young folks, we've got the language, we've got diversity which builds innovation. Okay? And when we look at all of these, this is what I call a supercluster. And what do I mean by that? Some of this super region, mega region, super cluster, some of this terminology came around in the 1960s when a lot of planners looked at the New York, DC region and saw an emerging multi-megacity agglomeration. And so this is a map of density, and we look at the Metro Manila region, actually the greater Manila region, from all the way from Tarlac down to Batangas. And this represents about 36 million people. It's a lot of people, right? I'm going to show you a scale comparison with our closest supercluster neighbor to the north. Now, it's the Greater Bay Area. That's what people in Hong Kong are not even just talking about Hong Kong anymore. They're talking about the Greater Bay Area when they're looking at investment. This is 64 million people, 7 airports, Hong Kong, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, Zhuhai, Macau. So all together, it's the same scale though. I mean, look at that, right? That yellow line, same distance. Do you know what I see? The pattern right here? I see the potential of getting to the same kind of breadth and scope of economic activity as the Greater Bay Area. Okay, and the Greater Bay Area has a bigger economy than all of Philippines right now. What do we have? We have space. We do have space, and Clark is not that far from Metro Manila, and neither is Batangas. So when you look at it in comparison to all these urban situations around the world, we actually have a good thing going. And we've had it for a long time. I mean, people have been coming up here. We're all here. You know, the agriculture, trade, property, tourism, all these things. This is a pattern of private sector investment that's been happening. You know, this blue line here of different tech parks and industrial parks that have already been, this is research that we did before we started the new Clark City work. And it's only gotten more intense since then. So what is BCDA trying to do? BCDA is now trying to harness all of these different pieces and work with, it's the multi-agency collaboration now, right? DPWH, DOTR, DICT, all these folks are coming together to create a multifaceted infrastructure network that some of the folks at BCDA are calling the Asia's next economic corridor. You've got all the pieces that we've just heard about. We also, BCDA just announced a partnership with Facebook and DICT to create, you see the two dotted lines up there, submarine cable broadband connecting to the US and to Hong Kong. And this is going to double the broadband. I mean, we're talking about hard and soft infrastructure here. It's very exciting. So New Clark City was a project that formed with BCDA and joined the Japan Overseas Infrastructure Investment, blah, blah, blah. And we worked together with Nippon Koi to create a plan. And this plan, we've seen this just now, this map. Metro Manila, Clark, the bigger Clark area. Now remember, Clark Special Economic Zone, that's 30,000 hectares. It includes Global Gateway, includes Clark Freeports, includes Clark Airport, and includes the orange area, which is New Clark City. You put all that together, it nestles neatly into the Pampanga landscape, and it has three main missions, right? One is disaster resilience, second is the decongestion of Metro Manila, and third is a catalyst for growth for the region. And if you look at the scale of this thing, the image on the left is New Clark City, 9,400 hectares. The amount of green space that we've reserved is 60%. That's the same as if you took, what are these cities here? This is Makati and Pasay and Mandaluyong and San Juan. Group them all together and just, and then Pasig itself would be the equivalent of your developable area. That's how big New Clark City is. And we heard the numbers earlier. Over 1 million residents, 800,000 workers. And the beautiful thing, of course, is it celebrates this wonderful landscape around you. You look out and you see the mountains and you see the sky. You see streams and real water that you can go down and touch. You can't do that anymore in Metro Manila. and a small footprint, very importantly. So what's the plan? The plan envisions 13 neighborhoods scattered around in the valleys so that the mountains form arms that embrace these villages. You've got civic centers and CBDs. You've got residential neighborhoods that are around the riverways. You've got industrial parks, right? It's a real diverse mix. And why is it different? Why is it different then from BGC or some of the things that have happened before? It's because all these uses are now mixed together. You've got residences right next to the offices. You've got hotels and retail. Oh, this sounds a lot better. And you know what that means is that people can walk, and that we're not just forced to drive between point to point. And that has been the big thing, right? And BCDA and AECOM, we realized early on that the BGC plan, as new and as fast as it was, it missed a couple things. One, not enough mid and low income housing, right? I mean, the folks who work at the BPOs are the ones traveling 2 to 3 hours because they can't afford to live close by. So we're gonna improve that. And there's a lot of other things too. So here it is, Central Park, Lake, Riverside Lifestyle. We've got Transport Hub. This is where the rail coming from Manila is gonna come to. You've got a downtown skyline. Now, how's that work? This is mostly a residential community with some offices so that it supports all the other economic activity that's happening. Global Gateway, for example, is already built. It's already happening. It's going to create the jobs and create the catalyst. The Freeport's got industrial zones. It's got connectivity to the airport. And so all four of these areas work together to create that ecosystem of economics. And I'm very excited about one of the key catalysts. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. We talked about resilience. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how the planning is truly resilient. And this gets into some planning nerdy stuff. I hope this is of interest to you, because sometimes it's easy to talk about resilience. If we zoom into the government center, okay, this is 200 hectares in the beginning, right around the river. Right, we talked about the various agencies that we've been talking to that are starting to have some early commitments. And the agencies coming together are so important because let's just take a quake. When that quake hits and the West Valley Fault down in Metro Manila gets active, you've got a lot of government units that are so spread apart. And so if bridges are down, if you got congestion in the streets because you've got first responders trying to get around, then you've got standstill. And what's the worst thing that a market could see is non-operation in the first 72 hours of a big event. I'll tell you a story. NatWest, right? NatWest Bank. Remember, maybe 20 years or so, there was an IRA bombing in Canary Wharf, right? And NatWest did not have a backup center. And it got shut down, not because of damage, but because of security reasons, for 3 days. It lost so much money in those 3 days that what they did next didn't even cost as much as what they lost. And what they did next was they built 3 redundant trading centers far away. One in Bristol, one in Leeds, one in, I'm not sure where, just far away from London. They keep it running 24 hours a day with a single security guard. Just if anything happens again, it's ready to come back and answer the markets in minute number 5. And that is just a bank. Now what about a whole country? If we are attracting investment and we want to tell them your investment is secure, we need the assurances that says if anything happens, we got you covered. And the markets need to know that. So for us, the resilience plan is super important in 3 stages. One is to be ready, during an event to be steady, and after to recover quickly. And we've been doing this. AECOM has worked with IBM to develop a whole resilience scorecard that we're applying to a number of cities all over the world. Yeah, there are a lot of technical things, but the important thing is the philosophy behind it, right? Either you respond to these disasters like stone, you can resist it. Yeah, I can hold back the winds, or a much more, I would say, authentically Filipino way of approaching it, which is more like bamboo, right? The ability to flex and bounce back and grow fast. So when it comes to resilience and the purpose, a lot of people ask me, oh, so when are we going to move the government? When are we going to take all those government offices? And that's not the point. The point, NatWest did not move their headquarters out of Canary Wharf. What they did was they created a place that allows whatever happens to the bank or to the country for us to bounce back fast, right? And that's what resilience is. So this National Government Center, at the heart of New Clark City, a catalyst. It's not just a normal government center. Washington, D.C., normal government center. But what does it feel like? It feels like a fortress if you go and visit, right? It's not exactly a lively place. It's getting better. But we started taking lessons from places like Paris, where even the expression of it, or Hong Kong. I worked on this in Hong Kong. It was about the public spaces in the middle. It was the expression of the transparency and the accessibility of government to help business, to help citizens. That was the philosophy at the core of this design. It's just like London and the London City Hall. If you've ever been there, you go inside and there's a whole open space, one-stop shop. You can get everything done in a day. Wouldn't that be great here? Right. Get your passport and your driver's license in a day. Wow. So we wanted to do something that was uniquely tuned to the Filipino identity, right? And so in drawing things like the weaving, or like the windows here that are not barriers but transitions between spaces, we wanted to create a government center. This is phase one now. It's a first glimpse for everybody here of what the heart of New Clark City is going to start looking like. And we're talking about parks and rivers and a couple interesting things there. I think you might see a stadium, an aquatic center. I'll get back to that. I don't have to get through this stuff. These are just basic principles. I think we all like good urban planning. But I'm going to dissect for you what this central government center looks like. We've got a national athletics training park right in the middle. People and health first. And yeah, incidentally, we can also use it for the Southeast Asia Games 2019. So what does that mean? I mean, this is a bigger thing than just, it can be used for an event. 2019 means that the government has committed to delivering these fast. All these promises, even the quote from Christopher Reeve, I'm thinking about, when could that happen? It's committed now, 2019. We're going to start seeing the first pieces. Okay, and what's around it? What's around it is that one-stop shop. It's clusters of government buildings and agencies that tend to work together, sharing spaces, so that as a customer of the government, we can go and get a lot of things done. And it also means agencies can talk to each other. Plus, very much like Angeles City already does, we're going to do it on a national scale. An integrated operations center that gives you an overlook, an ability to respond very quickly. And these clusters are great because you'll have offices, but you'll also have places to share. You'll have function rooms to have more Asia CEO conferences. And the tactical plan behind this is the really nerdy side. Independent, integrated, and intelligent planning. Independent because it's separated from Metro Manila. So you've got power, communications, data, market management, and messaging, all happening in a way that can respond in the first few minutes after a major event, right? You've got a plan which is integrated with lots of mobility. You think sometimes security is about having few entrances. Few entrances gets you BGC today, which is a lot of congestion because there's not a lot of ins and outs, right? What you want is variety and diversity. Sometimes you need to let the VIPs through. You need to let the security guys through. Oh, you got a whole bunch of aid workers just flying in? Okay, we'll manage those guys, right? So just having the option through a normal gridded city is very, very resilient. We also have then the spaces, which are these big stadia and these big parks. They create spaces for us to manage all those flows. And that makes it intelligent. Because with all the logistics, the material that we're talking about, the water, food, medicine that's going to be coming through this, we've got a place, field marshals to deal with it, helicopter spaces to land and take off. This is near Clark, so we can refuel. It's outside of the central Manila area where in a big event, you're going to have real problems getting to the people who need the help the most. Okay, so all those kinds of things are the technical pieces of what makes this area, and even Global Gateway has a very similar urban grid layout and the ability to respond. So all of the Clark Freeport Zone, the idea then is for all of these properties out here to take advantage of the space and the access that we have to be resilient for business. Okay, and just a few soft things at the end to show you teasers of that it's not just business as usual when it comes to the as well. That we're working with locally renowned architects to imbue what we call a modern Filipino sensibility. And it's happening. This is the timeline. Phase 1, 2017 to 2022. Already the government center is going through some bidding. And if all goes well, we're talking about by 2019 delivering the first government buildings. And then after that, phase 1B. And government's really serious.
When I was a kid, what did I imagine cities would be like?
Future cities.
When I was a kid, I imagined that cities of the future would be, I don't know, full of robots, sort of doing things that people should be doing.
Instant food, you know, you press a button, doot, 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 then a plate with the perfect meal comes out.
Flying cars all around.
Urban gardens there in the sky.
I guess as a kid, I imagined the city would be a place where you could do everything.
For me, I thought it would be those personal jet backpacks that you strap on. You could just bounce from building to building. But then, when we all grew up, robots and flying cars may not be here yet, but they will. And when they do, you will find them at BCDA. BCDA is the Basis Conversion Development Authority. Formed in 1992, the government gave BCDA the mandate to help strengthen the armed forces while building great cities. Our first challenge was Fort Bonifacio, just 11 kilometers from the heart of Manila. The vision was to transform the 240-hectare property into the next business and financial capital of the Philippines. The result? Bonifacio Global City, or BGC.
I like BGC because it's a city with a lot of green spaces and pockets of garden in between the buildings.
The establishments are just the right distance so that you can walk. They provided shade through the trees. They provided bike paths.
BGC was just a great opportunity to start something from scratch. It's actually developed much, much faster than we anticipated. As a partnership with BCDA, it's been a pleasure working with a government unit to create this new mini-city within Manila.
Next, BCDA looked at Villamor Air Base. Situated right next to the new Terminal 3 of Ninoy Aquino International Airport, BCDA developed the property into a satellite city with low-rise buildings, an entertainment and shopping center, and the business park. In 2008, BCDA invested a 93.77-kilometer four-lane expressway that transformed Central Luzon north of Manila into a world-class logistics hub for the Asia-Pacific region by connecting Subic Bay Freeport, Clark International Airport, and Clark Freeport Zone. Late this year, we will start the construction of a new airport terminal in Clark that will further open up the region for business and travel. This will make Clark the new gateway to the country and the world, while also easing congestion from Metro Manila's airport. We'll also have the Manila-Clark Railway that will turn a 2-hour drive from Clark to the capital into a 55-minute commute. But the most ambitious project of BCDA is the conversion of a 9,450 hectare property at Clark into New Clark City, envisioned to be the newest economic hub of Asia.
Well, our attraction to New Clark City was our belief that it was the most logical expansion to an increasingly congested Metro Manila, particularly because of its superior location as well as its disaster-free characteristics.
With New Clark City, what you have is basically a clean slate. It's basically all green fields right now. That means that from the very start, we can plan a city properly already.
We knew that New Clark City would be a city of the future, so we tapped world-class planners, and they came up with this beautiful design that works within the natural landscape and flat grounds. With our partnership with the Japan Overseas Infrastructure Development Network, or JOIN, and the master plan designed by AECOM, the largest and most experienced urban planner in the world, New Clark City will truly be a city of the future. The new Manila-Clark Railway will enter New Clark City through a state-of-the-art transit hub that will provide residents and visitors an efficient way to commute around New Clark City, giving them multiple options, from buses to bikes and even driverless cars. The Civic Center will house key government offices, a world-class convention and cultural center, and sprawling parks. Here, we'll also have educational institutions led by the University of the Philippines and the Technological University of the Philippines. This is our 200-hectare food terminal, similar to the Runges International Food Terminal in Paris. It will be a food logistics hub for the country and the region. The city will be powered by renewable energy and will provide quality power at competitive prices. Finally, a high-speed fiber optic network will make New Clark City a truly connected city that will provide internet connectivity comparable to Singapore and Japan, making everything from automating maintenance throughout the city to running the Internet of Things possible.
A city is more than just buildings and structures. It's about the spaces around the buildings. It's about the trees, the blue sky.
These cities should have a lot of garden and open spaces to bring back nature and humanity back into our urban areas.
Now I want a city that works. I want a livable environment, to be able to walk around in a clean, safe environment under the shade of a tree, enjoying the place that I live in.
This is what New Clark City will bring. A city where you can live better and work better. A city comparable to the best and most livable in the world. And there you have it, New Clark City, a smart city with a big heart. Because we here at BCDA feel that every city is the ultimate expression of what we as a people value, socially, economically, and of course, environmentally. It's a future we all share. And you can help lead us there. Ask us how you can be a part of New Clark City, Tarlac.
So I invite you to, again, network, as Richard has been saying. And we'll chat, enjoy your time up here. I'm super excited for not just for Clark, but for the whole nation. Thanks. Okay, thanks.